Over the past several years, the League has supported the adoption of the City Climate and Economic Equity Plan and the County Climate Action 2020 Plan. Our support is rooted in our positions and continues to be based on those, they having been approved by members across the nation and adopted at a National League convention. So we do not just respond to an issue willy-nilly. We base what we do on the positions that have been formally adopted by the League of Women Voters. We have state positions, we have local positions. We rely predominantly on our national positions and our state positions. We do not need to look at Hurricane Melissa's top wind gust speed of 252 miles an hour to understand that climate change must be addressed. We here in Milwaukee have experienced August 9th through 10th, an 8 to 14 inch rainfall, which did serious damage in our area. More than 4,500 residential and commercial buildings were damaged by that event. 51 destroyed, a minimum of 51 destroyed, and 1,500 homes experienced major damage. The Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, that likely serves all of us here in this room, was over 5 billion gallons in a discharge to Lake Michigan, its largest since 1993, when the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District deep tunnel went into service. This morning, we're fortunate to have two people who work together collaboratively, which is another interesting position that the League supports, is collaboration among governmental units. Eric Schombarger, on the left, who is director of the city's Environmental Collaboration Office, got to get that C in there, and Grant Helly, who's over here on the left, who is director of the county's Sustainability Office. Both are here to let us know clearly what kind of work they're doing to address this pressing issue that confronts us here locally and our entire globe. So, I will begin with Eric Schombarger. Eric has been with the city for 23 years, initially working as the city economist in the budget office. It's quite clear that he understood that environmental issues affect the budget. In 2009, he initiated the Environmental Collaboration Office in the city, and he has been its director since 2015. He holds a bachelor's degree from Marquette University and a master's degree of public affairs from UW-Madison. His certifications I found interesting. They are in water technology, energy analysis and policy, and business communications. He currently is project manager of the city's adopted Climate and Equity Plan, and to date he has partnered with several organizations or initiatives, including the Green Schools Yard Initiative. He's executed agreements with We Energies to power 80 municipal buildings with 100% renewable energy. And he launched what I think is an interesting fiscal note, the Property Assessment Clean Energy Financing Program in Wisconsin, that has funded over $40 million in projects in Milwaukee. Lastly, he secured funds to support the 10 big ideas of the City Climate and Equity Plan, only to have those funds rolled back by the current federal administration. Regardless, Eric soldiers on for addressing climate change. Please welcome Eric.
Thank you, Louise, for that warm welcome. I stole a lot of my thunder, what we're going to cover here today. But speaking of climate things, you mentioned the extreme storms that we had. But these climate threats are all around us. I mean, the other big one that I feel like really harmed the quality of life was all that wildfire smoke coming from Canada, which is a consequence of the dry air and drought that we are experiencing across the country. Not to mention nationally, Los Angeles burning with wildfires and hurricanes and all the rest. So climate change is about our children, but it is also about the here and now. And so it is really, really important that we continue to talk about climate change. I'm so grateful that we're having this discussion today. I feel like a lot of people are kind of afraid to talk about climate change with the new administration, but it is really important that we keep the conversation going. So today I am here to talk about our climate and equity plan, but also provide some context about the programs that we run. This picture makes me so happy. This was taken this Monday on top of the DPW field headquarters. That's Mayor Cavalier Johnson, who's been a big advocate for climate and energy. And so this is a 600 kilowatt solar array on top of the DPW field headquarters. There is another major solar project going on, the police department's 3rd district building on Lisbon. And all of that is funded in part by federal tax credits, direct pay tax credits. And maybe it's obvious, but I feel like clean energy is American energy, right? There's a lot of pushback about that, but this is about investing in American communities, helping reduce our energy bills, and being more sustainable to protect us from those climate threats that I talked about. So as Louise mentioned, we are with the Environmental Collaboration Office, or ECO, and our mission is to make Milwaukee a world-class eco-city. And I always like to say that ecology and economy are two sides of the same coin. You can't have long-term sustained economic growth without protecting the environment long-term. And I would argue that much of our challenges that the cities have had since the Industrial Revolution are because we didn't care about the environment. So you had lots of properties that couldn't be redeveloped easily because of pollution and things like that. So it's really important that we learn from the lessons of the past, anticipate and use science for predicting the future, and adopt policies that support sustainable action. We have a number of core programs in our office, so we try to take these big policy plans and turn them into programs, and I'll touch on a lot of these, but we are spearheading a big effort to put in a large public charging network for electric vehicles. Our Milwaukee Shine Solar program provides group buys and financing for homeowners to do solar. Our PACE financing that we mentioned is for large commercial buildings, and it was a model for the statewide PACE program that is now available not only in the city, but throughout Milwaukee County and many other counties in the state. Water-centric city, I'll talk briefly about that. It's a whole other topic we could talk about, water issues. Eco-neighborhoods is our effort to work with community-based organizations to bring local action into the neighborhood level. ME2 provides loans and financing for energy efficiency projects, and Feed Milwaukee is our effort to reduce food waste in the community while feeding hungry people and trying to elevate composting as well. And then I guess the last one, which we haven't made a logo yet, but is our Green Jobs Accelerator. And that is to really be intentional about creating jobs for people in these spaces, including for people of color who have traditionally been left out. We have a couple different plans that guide our work. I'll talk about the Climate and Equity Plan in a second, but the first one that was adopted was in 2019, which was our Green Infrastructure Plan. I really think those storms, the damage from those storms that Louise talked about would have been much worse had it not been for a lot of the efforts of the sewerage district and the city to add green infrastructure to our urban environment. And basically what we're talking about there with green infrastructure is we paved over way too much of the city, right? You have asphalt all over the place for parking lots and streets. We literally paved the rivers in some situations, making these little channels. And so there's a big effort to kind of de-pave and add nature-based solutions to absorb that stormwater. There's a lot of different elements to this plan, including working with the MPS to retrofit 5 schoolyards a year to pull up the asphalt and make much better green play areas for kids, which is not only good for stormwater, but I just think it's important for the mental health of our kids, right? To not just go out and play in asphalt with a chain link fence, but to really have trees and flowers and nature to play in. Other key elements of that plan is we do require green infrastructure on all large developments. You're seeing green infrastructure when we redesign streets with bioswales, and we have it's basically a really good partnership with the sewerage district to take the regional plan and do what we can at the local level. But I think you're here today to hear about our climate and equity plan. So this was a big 4-year effort. Lots of people in this room contributed to it. CAD and Citizen Action were really instrumental in pushing our leaders to adopt it. And I'm really excited to say that I do really believe that our leaders both the mayor and members of the Common Council, Marina Dimitrievich in particular, has been a really big advocate for the plan. And we need to continue to support the leaders that support this work. So I think it's important to call those people out. The plan has two major goals. One is reducing greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 and pursuing net zero by 2050. And then creating good paying green jobs and being inclusive of people of color, again, who have been left out historically. There are 10 big ideas in the plan, which I will run through, and then we limited it to 10. We had probably 80 good ideas from the residents, but I want people to remember what the 10 big ideas are. So these are the ones they are, and so hopefully you can try to, when you're in the shower, try to recite them so you can know them all. All right. Before I get into those, just again, quick timeline. This was a big effort, 4 years with the community. Lots of meetings, lots of stakeholder groups, lots of public engagement, and we really pushed to get it adopted in time to apply for all the federal funding. I mean, it was really, when we were putting this together, we weren't sure the federal government was going to have funding, and then they came up with this climate bill, and so we got it done, which really put us in a good position to pursue those funds, because the goals in that plan were very much aligned with the Biden administration's goals of equity and climate and that kind of thing. So it was really great that we had a plan so that when I went to write grant applications, we could say, this is an adopted plan by the city of Milwaukee. This isn't just me scrambling to cook up projects. So here are the 10 big ideas. There's a green jobs accelerator, which we can talk more about. Again, the idea is to get young people excited, to train them, and then to connect them with employers who will hire them to do this kind of work. Healthy home upgrades is about retrofitting our existing homes with energy efficiency, and one of the unique spins we put on it, we had had this ME2 program for quite some time, going back to 2010 and the Obama stimulus, but what we were trying to do a better job of is integrate it with other housing programs, especially ones that do lead abatement and other healthy homes upgrades. You go into a lot of homes and they need a lot of work. It's not just insulation, but they might have mold in the basement or leaky roof or lead. And so how can we address those things together through multiple programs at the same time? New net zero energy homes is one that I'm pretty passionate about. It's the idea that not only are fixing existing homes, but we need to really increase the supply of new home construction. Nationally, also in Milwaukee, we have not been building new homes at nearly a fast enough clip. And when we do, we make them too big, out in the suburbs, and so they're not really accessible to new home buyers. So the idea is that we would build new starter homes, maybe 1,000, 1,200 square feet, using panelized construction, so you can build the components in a factory, and make them net zero. It's much easier to get to net zero on a new house that has been properly insulated and constructed to be that way in the first place, rather than, it's possible but harder to retrofit existing homes. For commercial buildings which use a whole lot of energy, we are constrained a little bit by the state, which sets the building code, the energy code at the state level, so local governments can't have a more aggressive code than the state. But what we can do is require local large commercial buildings to annually monitor, measure, and report on their energy use. And the idea is that if they actually at least look at their energy bill, they'll be more inclined to do something about it. And then again, we can provide PACE financing and other things to do the upgrades. We have two related to transportation. One is the idea of just driving less and less recklessly. And so, that's rethinking our neighborhoods so they're not all built around moving as many cars as fast as possible. And the mayor has made a really big emphasis on complete streets and narrowing them, and adding protected bike lanes so they're more walkable and they're safer for residents, easier to drive, less accidents, all of those kinds of things. And we are also, you've probably seen it all over Milwaukee, the narrower streets. We are now also, trying to work more with the Department of Public Works so that when they put in these protected barriers, that they're actually thinking about more opportunities for trees. So it's not just concrete barriers, but trees as barriers. And then to the extent that people do drive vehicles, we need electric vehicles and getting off of fossil fuels to power our vehicles. Number 7, greening the grid, is probably the most important of all of these. So there's a big push to electrify everything, right? Well, the premise of electrifying everything is that the power we're getting is from renewable sources. If we're just electrifying everything, but we're still getting our electricity from coal and natural gas, that's not as good. So we have to do a broad-based strategy to put renewable energy on our own buildings, but more importantly, we got to work on the big scale stuff. I mean, we got to be in the game when We Energies is proposing, big new power plants and gas plants and all of that stuff. And we also need to have some opportunities to work with them to say, hey, as a large customer, we demand renewable energy, and we want you to build it for us because you're our utility. Nature in the city, I talked a little bit about that with green infrastructure. It's about de-paving and getting more trees and green space. Food waste reduction, we have a Feed MKE initiative with some partners here today. And again, the idea is to do a better job of connecting the big institutions that are wasting a lot of food with the food pantries and others that could use that food to feed hungry people. As a Christian, I think that's pretty important to try to feed hungry people and not waste food, especially now all this time of food insecurity. And then lastly, resilience ambassadors, which is the idea of working with trusted community-based organizations to educate people about all of this. So a little bit more detail. The Green Jobs Accelerator is about creating clear pathways. I've been in plenty of meetings where people are like, what is a green job? Let me tell you what green jobs are. Green jobs are electricians that can install solar and electric vehicle charging and LED lights. It's arborists to plant the trees and care for them. It's plumbers to remove lead pipes, all those kinds of things. So there's in my opinion, a big gap in the recruitment for the trades. And so we have to do a better job of really opening the doors to trades education, recognizing that the trades aren't just for people that are struggling in school, but it requires hard work, it requires some sense, and then working with the unions and others to really open up the doors to more people to do that. And we're doing a lot of work. We had a new arborist pre-apprenticeship class that just graduated, and we are being intentional that when we do these big solar projects, that we have workforce requirements on them, and working with the contractors to make sure that they are hiring locally on those projects. Healthy home energy upgrades is probably the thing that touches most people in the community the most, because it's how most people experience energy. And I should probably say, how many people, I assume in these crowds that you all know why energy relates to climate change, but let me just make sure you guys do understand what I'm talking about. Does anybody know why I care about energy when we care about climate change? Anybody? Like, just somebody raise your hand and say why we should
use more energy if your house isn't efficient.
Yes, that's true. And why do we want to reduce energy use when it comes to climate change? Right, yes, okay, so you get it. I don't always want to assume that there's a lot of dots to connect between cutting energy use and getting off fossil fuels to address climate change. So there's a big emphasis on energy throughout all of this thing. So we are trying to, again, weatherize as many homes. We are fortunate to have one of the country's best energy efficiency contractors, Green Homeowners United. Kevin Kane has just been a really, really impressive person to not only build a business to do this kind of stuff, but to also, know how these tax credits work and all of that kind of stuff. So a very good resource there. And as part of that, we are doing stuff in eco, but we are also want to remind people that there's still $70 million of state funding available for low to moderate income people for heat pumps and electrification and energy saving projects. I'm sure we can share this presentation afterwards, so I don't want to read all of this. But the city did get allocated $2 million of its ARPA funds for this. It's a really long story because we were trying to work with SDC and they went under. So we are working with Habitat for Humanity to try to combine energy efficiency and lead abatement. We also provided free energy audits to get people ready for the IRA rebates. And most recently, we got a $2 million grant from HUD to do healthy homes upgrades. So that's things that can reduce asthma and other kind of health issues while we're in a home doing lead and energy efficiency. This kind of shows some of the progress with just that ARPA funding. I'm sure Kevin has done a lot more with this with IRA funding, but done this is in 2020, 2024, we did 140 audits, and then a lot of that turned into projects in 2025. It's just, again, just the city funds. So anyway, it really helps. I think part of the point of this is just it really helps to have a good private sector-based contractors to work with that can help push these federally funded programs. Quickly on the net zero energy homes, this one has been an absolute roller coaster for me because we had ARPA funding set aside for it. We had some issues with our developer. Long story short, the council decided to use it for other things. And part of that was on the grounds that we would get a $3.4 million grant to build more net zero energy homes. We had that contract, was announced by the Biden administration, but we've not seen the money. So I don't think we'll see the money. I think they're just not going to award it to us. So what we are doing in the process in the meantime with limited local money is trying to educate developers about net zero energy practices. I don't think any of our developers, or maybe only a handful, really even understand what we're talking about how to actually build a house to be net zero. That was one of the challenges that we had early on. I just assumed people would know how to do it, and they don't. And so we have to do a better job of explaining to developers what the difference is between a passive house standard or a net zero energy and just the basic code. And so we are working with UWM, our architecture school. We've produced sample panels so developers can touch and feel and see what this stuff is all about. But I still think there's opportunities for this group that when you support housing initiatives, that we show up and we ask for, hey, it's great that the city and the state are supporting affordable housing, but what are we doing to make sure that that housing is built as sustainable as possible? And that it's not just about the upfront cost of the house, but it's the cost to live in that house long term. And the more we can do to reduce energy use when we build a house through top-end energy efficiency, the more every family over the next 30 or 50 years who live in that house will benefit on lower energy bills. Commercial building benchmarking, I touched on this briefly. So we passed the second ordinance in the state. Madison was the first to require large buildings to report on their energy use. The first reporting deadline was September 30th of this year. And we've had about 50% compliance, which is pretty good for the first year of rolling out a program like that. This is another story of where we had hoped to build in a whole ecosystem around supporting commercial buildings for energy efficiency. We had a $9 million grant announced. I actually have the contract. I do not have the money for that contract because of the new administration. But what was in the plan was to build a commercial building resource center to not only have commercial buildings report on their energy use, but then have access to technical expertise about what to do and opportunities for energy efficiency. The other cool thing that we had in that grant was funding for a regional sustainability person to work with Grant and myself and every other community in the Milwaukee metros. Because what we've found is that a lot of the other smaller communities were in West Dallas. I don't think West Dallas has a dedicated sustainability staff. I am a big believer that cities should have dedicated sustainability staff, but recognizing that there's all these small communities can't afford one on their own, we put money on the table from the city to help other communities. And unfortunately, that money is tied up. By the way, I want to acknowledge Ann O'Connor here too, one of the other great chairs of our climate task force and big champion of this work. People-centered transportation. Again, I talked a little bit about this, but the mayor's prioritizing it. We have 51 miles of protected bike lanes now in the city. In the span of just a couple of years. So that has been a really tremendous, great progress. I can really not take much credit for that. That's our Department of Public Works, our Vision Zero director, and the mayor pushing that priority. We are also supporting our Department of City Development and updating zoning codes to allow for smaller units and what's called auxiliary dwelling units. In other words, allowing people to build smaller units on their lots. All of that is intended to create density, get people back into the city, because the more dense we have neighborhoods, the more feasible transit is, right? The other thing, one of the comments that has stuck with me, so Ted Craig was with Wisconsin Citizen Action, and when we were developing this he always talked about you think about places like the Third Ward, which are really vibrant, they're expensive to live. And why are they expensive? Because everybody wants to live there, right? And so the issue is we need more neighborhoods like that, where you have mixed use, you know, residential next with first floor retail and all of that. And incidentally, I do think I was driving in today and I thought West Dallas really did a great job with that. You're really starting to see these vibrant neighborhoods in West Dallas now with this kind of mixed use development. Let's see. Quickly on EVs, we have an ordinance now that requires when we buy vehicles for the city fleet that they be low emission when it is cost effective and practical to do so. So almost all of our passenger vehicles are now hybrids or electric. We got the police department buying hybrids. I got them trying out some Mustangs. I think they're going to like the electric Mustangs. But you know, we're really. You know, basically the assumption is that almost all passenger vehicles now are cost effective to be electric or hybrid. Parking checkers are an exception because they like to get out on the wrong side of the vehicle. But so that's where we're at now. We still think the technology has to develop further for the really large vehicles like garbage trucks and things like that. Those are mostly run on compressed natural gas. So we're doing it in city operations, and then like I said, we have this $15 million plan to add public electric vehicle charging at 53 spots throughout the city. The first 13 sites will be at libraries and public parks. We are trying to get the feds to release the construction funding for that and then open up a bigger public process to confirm the final 40 sites. That is uncertain that they will actually fund that project. Greening the grid, I mentioned the efforts with, you know, trying to work with We Energies. This is a Caledonia solar field. It's about 6 megawatts, and that powers, the power is dedicated to city buildings. So we are paying a little extra on our energy bill, half a cent extra on our energy bill to get dedicated power from We Energies, and we get the credit for it for our buildings. In the next 2 weeks, we will be breaking ground on another 4 megawatts by General Mitchell Airport. There is on College Avenue, there's a landfill that the city owns, where in 2021 we put 2 megawatts, and we're going to be expanding that to adding another 4 megawatts starting in December. There have been challenges with this. The state had $60 million for a Solar for All program that has been cut, and they're also cutting all the federal tax credits for solar. There will be tax credits going on for geothermal, but we're getting hit from all sides by the feds. They're hitting tax credits, they're hitting grants, they're hitting, making it harder from a regulatory standpoint. It's really absurd what the federal government's doing, in my opinion. Quickly on protecting nature in the city, we did get a $12 million forestry grant. That one is good. We shared the wealth with Milwaukee County and with MPS. And the idea is to, A, get caught up on our pruning, plant more trees. There's funding in there for green job development, so really great partnership there. Feed MKE, we've done mini grants to smaller organizations to try to increase their capacity to recover healthy food. We have Mayor's Food Waste Challenge, and we have opened up self-help drop sites where people who want to donate food waste or compost food waste can go to like 6 different sites around the city. Eco Neighborhoods, quickly, again, it's working with community-based organizations to get the word out. We have memorandums of understanding with Sherman Park Community Association and Lindsay Heights and Harambe neighborhood and others. Again, the idea is environmental justice. It's working with the groups to understand what's available to them and really making a concerted effort to educate them about these policies. We just finished climate storytelling to help residents understand how to communicate to their elected leaders why they care about climate change. We are working with green congregations in the Sherman Park area to help them get grants and audits to do projects. And also, working with other communities throughout the state, including Milwaukee County. This is a quick summary of where we stand on federal. Last year, we had gotten about $42 million of federal grants. About $13 million has now been either terminated or I just don't think we're going to see it. The EV grant is kind of in I don't know. I put a caution note on that. I hope we get it. We're at least working with our federal project officer but we have to get their approval to release the construction money. And so I hope we know in the next 2 months whether they're going to get serious about that. I do think that the only reason that Wisconsin still has our electric vehicle, so the state is moving forward with it, and that's because the Attorney General sued the feds with other communities. The states that didn't sue don't have the money, they lost it. So I want to acknowledge Josh Call and the state for getting involved in those lawsuits to try to keep that money flowing. So when I talk about this $15 million, that's a city grant that's being shared with Milwaukee County, but there is a state grant to put high-speed chargers in around the state, and that state grant is still moving forward, and I just saw fast chargers going in at Meyer on 60th and Layton, so that stuff is happening. So I know I'm about out of time here, but the point is, it's bad, but it's not a complete disaster. I mean, it's a disaster, but it's not a catastrophic disaster. We still have projects going that weren't happening before the IRA. So we can't give up hope. We can't stop talking about this. We got to keep moving forward. We have public dashboards on our website to track where we're at, including not only for the community, but for city operations. This is an example of where we're at overall with emissions. We're about holding steady. Residential emissions are down, but transportation emissions are up. And I'm still trying to get my arms around why exactly that is. But in any event, this is all feeding into a regional climate plan that we're working with Sewer Pack. By the end of the year, they are turning in a regional climate plan that is based on Milwaukee's climate plan. Again, there's a dashboard that shows where we are at with all the different city buildings and where we're scaling up our use of renewable energy in city operations. Almost done, I promise. We co-founded the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition back in 2020. This is a statewide group of local governments that have climate goals. There are other statewide coalitions of local government, like the League of Municipalities and things like that, but I don't think they're really that focused on climate issues. And so all these communities that now represent 40% of the state's population get together on a regular basis to not only share best practices, but to advocate for policy at the state level. So you will see us providing joint comments from communities on rate cases at the Public Service Commission, for example. And I do feel like we were instrumental in getting the state to update its energy code for commercial buildings across the whole state. I was giving an interview on WPR when there was a scorecard that came out, and they said, well, why isn't Milwaukee better? And I said, well, here's what we can do that's in our control, but it would be nice if the state had a better building code. It's quite mediocre. And I got a call from the governor's office the next day, and they're like, really? It's mediocre, huh? I'm like, yeah, it's mediocre. So, to their credit, they then proposed a higher standard. It got stuck in the legislature. The legislature had this arcane process to block stuff for like 2 or 3 years, but the Supreme Court recently said the new code can move forward. So I appreciate the governor, making that happen and fighting for it, right? It wasn't just an easy one, it was a fight. And then I mentioned Sewer Pack is doing the regional climate plan that will be coming out, or at least be submitted by December 31st of this year. So keep in touch, lots of stuff happening, and I can't wait to hear what the county's got, but thank you. And I guess how are we doing questions?
We're gonna do a couple questions as Grant prepares to come up.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
let's do a couple questions. Questions? We'll take 2 questions. Ruth?
What is the city doing to make sure that people are aware of organizations like the Green Homeowners United?
Well, yes. So the question was, what is the city doing to make sure people know about groups like Green Homeowners United? Probably should do some more billboards. I guess we could probably do more billboards. But so we have our ME2 program where we are trying to push that out, and so we have marketing that we give to the contractors. But we also, I think probably the biggest thing at this point is our resilience ambassadors. So that is the whole idea, is that they are out in the community giving presentations. We go to home ownership fairs all over the place. We just had staff at Sherman Park getting the word out. I do want to acknowledge Kat and her group at Citizen Action that I think are really out there pushing. But we got to do more. I mean, the people don't know about this. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, the way I found out is
Yeah.
because I'm out there, you
Yes.
know, and people are like, oh my goodness, Ruth, you know, and I own a home that has a historic number in a historic region, and so my home was done through a grant, and so what I was able to do is make a historic home way more eco-friendly than before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Milwaukee County Sustainability Task Force. He holds a bachelor's degree in liberal studies and sustainability at the University of Northern Iowa, and now he leads efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for the county, to improve its energy efficiency, and to strengthen climate resilience across the entire county operations. Earlier this year, under his leadership, the county adopted and released the Climate Action 2050 plan, a bold roadmap to reach net zero operational carbon emissions by 2050. The grant focuses on practical solutions that balance environmental sustainability with fiscal responsibility, community well-being, and equity. Prior to his current position, Grant served roles spanning energy management, food and beverage, and organic waste mitigation, and industrial environmental assistance. Grant understands how government, private sector, and community organizations can collaborate to achieve climate outcomes. His leadership is rooted in building systems that make sustainability an enduring part of local government decision making. Welcome, Grant.
Yeah, thank you so much. One more time, can we give a hand to Eric and the City Eco Office for the incredible work that they're doing. Eric makes my job easier and more difficult today because he gave us such good background to so many things, and now we have a lot to live up to with our presentation here for the county as well. But good morning, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of folks that I don't yet know, so I look forward to presenting a little bit of information and hopefully hearing from some of you today as well. So I just want to give a real brief overview. Also, let me apologize, I like to kind of move around from time to time. I'm not one for standing still all the time, but I'd like to give a quick background to why we're working through this process of developing, adopting, and implementing a climate plan for Milwaukee County's operations that spans from 2021, when Milwaukee County committed to achieving net zero operational emissions by the year 2050. It also tasked the Office of Sustainability with developing and administering a strategic plan in order to do so. And just this year, I know we've talked a lot about what 2025 has looked like for a lot of different folks, positive, negative, somewhere in the middle. I like to be an optimist, so we're going to stay on the positive side of it, and 2025 has been a great year for Milwaukee County because we did develop our Climate Action 2050 plan this year, and as I'll get into in a moment, that was adopted in April of this year. So April 24th, I believe, was the date when we presented our Climate Action 2050 plan to the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, and that was ultimately adopted. We were very happy about that, really proud of all the work that went into it, and really appreciative of all the organizations and citizens that supported the entire development process, including the adoption. And the following day, on April 25th, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley signed the file making this official. And again, I do want to give one additional shout out to Milwaukee County Board Supervisor Ann O'Connor, who has been just wonderful, a climate champion for us. All right, we'll get into some of the heavy hitting stuff. So the first question always, right, is why should Milwaukee County care about carbon emissions or lowering our impact? And it's pretty simple, really. You know, carbon emissions do accelerate and intensify climate change. I'm going to talk about that in a future slide here just a little bit. But as a part of our Climate Action 2050 plan, we developed a vulnerability assessment that studied how climate hazards will specifically impact the residents throughout Milwaukee County. And the output of that was essentially 3 critical hazards or 3 critical concerns. Those are increased heat waves and increased overall heat temperatures, as well as flooding and acute air quality hazards. As well, through developing our climate plan, we did a lot of community engagement sessions, much like this today, and hearing from residents about what matters to them and what they care about. You can see an entire list here. I won't go through reading all of these, but just to highlight a few things that are certainly of concern to residents that we've heard over and over again, and certainly resonate with myself as well. First being community well-being. This also really aligns with Milwaukee County's vision to become the healthiest county in the state of Wisconsin by achieving racial equity. This leaves a lot of opportunity to implement, climate strategies that not only lower our operational emissions, but can have positive impacts on our community members as well. A couple others, local job creation has already been talked about by Eric. That's something that is very pressing, matters a lot to a lot of folks, and we want to make sure that we're finding ways to include that in some of our work as well as efficiency and financial responsibility, just being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and making sound decisions within sustainable implementation. Going back to those climate projection hazards that I talked about just a moment ago, you may not be able to read too close. I'll give you a brief synopsis here of what you're seeing. Through our vulnerability assessment, what we did was we looked at the entirety of Milwaukee County, and on the left side of the screen here, you may see these little green dot areas. What those are areas of Milwaukee County that are high on the social vulnerability index. Essentially, these are populations or residents that have unequal access to resources and opportunity, disadvantaged community members, and so on and so forth. And then the important thing here within this heat wave projection that you see throughout the century, when we overlay those increased temperatures that we expect to see as a result of climate change, it's going to disproportionately affect our disadvantaged community members. That's a real hazard. That's a scary thing, quite honestly. So we want to make sure that the work we're doing in Milwaukee County is lowering that overall impact on our residents. And I'm guessing most folks here do live within Milwaukee County and understand kind of the breadth of what that all entails. But kind of our favorite tagline is that Milwaukee County operates everything from A to Z, and that includes everything from an international airport to a zoo and everything in between, including transportation, community centers, senior centers, parks. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but there's also a lot of operational emissions that come along with that. And we want to do our part so we can lower these hazards that are already impacting our communities. So what is Milwaukee County doing about this? Like I mentioned, this year in April of this year, we finalized and adopted our Climate Action 2050 plan, and I'm going to get into some of the more specific strategies that we've outlined for implementation over the next 25 years. Now, what that process looked like for us is, again, also a multi-year process of a lot of community engagement, hearing from community members, meeting a lot with all of our county operating departments. Like I mentioned, there's a lot there. And because of that, we needed to make sure that we could align with the strategic visions and strategic plans for each one of our county departments to make sure that what we're proposing to do, these are big, ambitious strategies, like you'll see in a few slides here. We want to make sure that that aligns with what's important to the departments themselves. I feel that's how we're going to find the most success in working towards some of these really bold strategies and bold goals. Along the way, I do want to mention we gave numerous informational reports and updates to our County Board of Supervisors, making sure that their input was heard and ultimately could help guide this development of the plan. And what resulted is a plan that I think we're really proud of, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to make progress on. So Milwaukee County's carbon neutral commitment, or net zero operational emissions by 2050, what does that mean for us? That means inclusion of scope 1 and 2 emissions, so that's going to be the Milwaukee County's direct emissions. The easiest example of this would be like tailpipe emissions from Milwaukee County transit buses or fleet vehicles, or operating our facilities. Scope 2 emissions are going to be those emissions that are essentially attributable to our energy consumption. So we operate all these buildings. In order to operate those buildings, we purchase a lot of electricity, natural gas, steam, and the emissions that are associated with generating that. This does not include Scope 3 emissions, which are going to be all other indirect emissions. An easy example of this would be we're not counting the emissions from our employees that commute to work every day in their own personal vehicles. That would be outside the scope of our operational emissions. And very excitingly, over the past, well, I guess since 2005, we've seen a 47% reduction in our emissions. That's great. There's a lot more to be done there. And I'll be quite honest that the first half are easier to abate emissions. It's only going to get substantially more difficult along the way, but I'll say we're up for the challenge. And a lot of this so far in our emissions reduction is attributable to right-sizing our portfolio, the footprint of our buildings that we're operating, kind of downsizing, or as we've built new facilities, make sure that they're much more higher efficiency and overall a somewhat smaller footprint. So we've made great progress so far, but like I mentioned, there's going to be a long way to go. And that emissions breakdown that I just showed on the other slide, this is what that essentially looks like. 2/3 of Milwaukee County's operational emissions are associated with all of our buildings and the operation and maintenance of all of those buildings. The remaining, essentially 1/3, is our fleet vehicles. The vast majority of that is Milwaukee County Transit System buses. That does include all other fleet vehicles as well. So Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, squad vehicles, some of our highway maintenance vehicles, so on and so forth. So how we plan to lower those emissions falls into kind of these categories here. A lot of this is things that Milwaukee County has already been working on. So just because we passed our climate plan in 2025 doesn't mean that we haven't already been hard at work. A few of these categories that we have focused on so far is avoiding new sources of emissions and reducing our existing emissions. As well as we go through the next 25 years to hopefully reach this goal. We'll continue in some of these other categories as well, like being able to substitute our fuel sources for lower carbon alternatives, as well as compensate for those near impossible to abate emissions by using renewable energy credits, things of that sort. But I do want to give the caveat, this is our lowest priority to doing so. We're very, very focused on a lot of opportunity that currently exists through avoiding our current emissions and reducing as well. Okay, this is the meat and potatoes of Milwaukee County's Climate Action 2050 plan. These are our high-level categories for strategies that we plan to implement or have already been implementing to continue reducing our emissions. So I'm not going to go through category by category here, but there is a lot. Some of the higher categories that we've already been working on, you can see on the left side here, currently happening, ones that are starred in green, or ones that are starred in yellow have been requested through different budgets or are planning to be happening already. So a few things that I'm going to get into with some of our implementation on further slides would be things like energy efficiency upgrades, fleet upgrades, on-site solar, we'll continue to increase that. A couple other areas as well, right, like building electrification, fleet upgrades. I won't go too in-depth on this today, but our Milwaukee County Transit System is more than 400 buses right now. There's a lot of conversation about what that looks like to right-size their fleet and the routes long-term as well. But the key piece of this is at some point we need to look at alternative fuel options for our transit buses. That's likely electrification, but we're keeping our options open as well. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity there, and we won't shy away from the fact that there's going to be a significant cost associated with doing so. So as we move forward, we'll continue to work with leaders at Milwaukee County Transit System. We'll continue to work with our elected leadership to advocate for funding that's needed, mostly, right, to begin making this transition in some of these areas that will have significant impact on lowering our overall emissions. So as I go through, I'll continue to touch on a few of these different categories, but as Eric mentioned, I think hopefully we can share this out at a later date. You can definitely dig in a little deeper as well. So since April of this year, and what we're looking to do as we transition into 2026 for implementation is still some of it to be determined and some of it is already happening. So Milwaukee County does have a sustainability task force. The sustainability task force is made up of a representative from each Milwaukee County operating department. And why this is important is this allows us to have insight into each department on a weekly, monthly basis. That person serves as our key communication point of contact or liaison, so we can make sure that we're going to stay on track with these categories, right? Each department has a lot on their hands with the services that they're tasked with providing, and this is a significantly big, additional thing for them to tackle every year, and we want to make sure that we can have direct conversations with leaders of each one of our departments to help them track the strategies that they've agreed to implement as part of our plan. What we're moving into right now and what we'll look at for 2026 is developing a progress tracking tool and method. So Eric did a really good job of showing some of the dashboards that already exist for the city of Milwaukee that report out on their emissions. And we are looking to do something similar for Milwaukee County. We do already have, I think I have a slide on it later, I'll show you. We do have a public dashboard where you can look at energy consumption and the costs associated with that as well for every Milwaukee County facility right now. But we want to expand on that, and we want to make that a little more in-depth to help both county departments, but also our residents understand the progress that we are making, or if we're falling behind in the category. Since we do value transparency so much, we want to make sure that we are properly communicating that. So we'll continue to measure our ongoing progress as well, and some of these milestones throughout the plan will continue to go full steam ahead there. As well as evaluating funding opportunities where they do or do not exist. I do feel very strongly that even though it may be a tough federal landscape at the moment, this is a long-term goal. We're playing a long-term game here. I don't want to use the word game lightly, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So as an optimist, like I mentioned before, we're going to remain committed to finding funding where that potentially exists. If that's at the federal level, that's at the state level, if that's locally, if that's mostly just advocating for using current Milwaukee County funds and taxpayer dollars to do some of this work, then that's what we'll do, and we'll remain committed to that. And I do feel there will be a lot of opportunity over the next 25 years. It's just an unknown at this moment, right? Okay, as I did mention, this is Milwaukee County's public-facing energy dashboard right now. This is pretty up-to-date, real-time. It is a significant, lift in order for us to input all of this data. So we do this on a rolling basis 4 or 5 times a year. So bear with us if you don't see energy consumption data that's relevant as of, November 20th, right? We're a couple months behind potentially. But the cool thing about this is you can look at any Milwaukee County facility. So say there's one that you access regularly or that you're just curious about, you can go on our dashboard, you can search in the location by name or by address and find that exact facility and see what their energy consumption looks like. And in some cases, you can even see what that consumption is made up of. Is that mostly electricity? Is that using district steam energy? And you can evaluate that, and it's a good transparency tool that has been very helpful for us, not only with residents of the county, but also for our departments. It's the quickest and easiest way for my office to be able to educate one department about all of their facilities and for them to quickly understand how much energy they're consuming in their day-to-day operations. So just a few other additional county efforts. Another key thing that happened in 2025 that I'm really excited about, and there's going to be a lot to be seen for 2026 and even the years moving forward, is our own sustainable design standards. Now, what this is for Milwaukee County is essentially a tool or a resource, to help us move sustainable decision making to the very beginning of every construction project that the county does. That can be major new construction, like our Investing in Justice Courthouse Complex. You may be somewhat aware or familiar with that project that's happening at the downtown courthouse complex. And that can roll all the way down to very, very small equipment upgrade projects, like replacing a boiler at a facility, replacing a roof, facade repairs even. But it's great. This is going to be a great resource. This, again, was brought forward through a county board resolution this year. And this will be iterative. We'll continue to update this and upgrade our document as we move forward. But as we move into 2026, the county's 2026 budget was recently finalized and adopted. And with that comes a whole slew of capital improvement projects that were selected to be funded. And from our preliminary look, we think there will be in the range of about 15 to 20 Milwaukee County capital projects that'll be in the design phase or design and construction phase for 2026. And we're going to ask every one of those projects to comply with Milwaukee County Sustainable Design Standards. So hopefully we'll make leaps and bounds in some of the design and construction processes that are happening. I won't spend a ton of time here, but essentially what we do is we look at each one of these projects and we categorize it on a tier 1 or a tier 2. And for a tier 1 project, that means that this project will have to meet all of the mandatory requirements that we've outlined in our document, but then it means it's going to have to go above and beyond as well. We have a kind of a good, better, best approach for some of these different projects, and a tier 1 project is likely a large project. Kind of what we've set is an area that would be 10,000 square foot or larger, or in excess of $3 million for the construction. And that's going to then likely be a tier 1 project. So if we're making a significant investment in a county property, we feel strongly that that investment needs to have a lot of oversight and a lot of parameters on sustainable design decisions. Now, there's, I believe it's 8 focus areas within those sustainable design standards. 3 of those 8 have mandatory requirements right now. The others have really great guidance, best practices, references that we hope each project team will adopt as well. But for the time being, there's just the 3 mandatory categories being energy efficiency, emissions and pollution control, as well as climate resilience and adaptation. The reason that we selected these 3 as being our mandatory categories for right now is each strategy within those has direct emissions impact or direct energy use impact. The others have some great co-beneficial opportunities that we really hope to also implement, things like green infrastructure projects. But for the time being, this is a big step in how we deliver projects at the county, and we're kind of taking it in stride and starting small, if you will. But even though we're starting relatively small, I think we'll have a huge impact with this project. And just a few others. This is an aerial view right here of Milwaukee County's newer, it's a 2025 opening, of the Marcia Peacock's Health and Human Services Center. This is located at 1230 West Cherry Street. I believe that's the King Park neighborhood of the city of Milwaukee. It's a beautiful facility, it's a wonderful facility. Would really recommend you check it out if you're not yet familiar. But as a part of this, we did, through the design and construction, look to maximize the amount of rooftop solar that we could put on this facility. I wouldn't say it's super significant, but it is impactful for the county. What that project is going to do is essentially offset about 11% of that building's energy use. And that's something that could be expanded through time with other additional solar panels if we chose to add that. But for us, this is a step in showing that we're investing in clean energy at Milwaukee County too, as well as taking advantage of those Inflation Reduction Act direct pay tax credits that Eric mentioned. Unfortunately, for the time being, because of the sunsetting of those tax credits, because of the federal administration, this is likely the only project for now of solar that will be eligible to receive some tax credits back on. But in addition to this, we are receiving some tax credits as well for fully electrified vehicles that we started to implement in our fleet too. And finally, this has already been mentioned on by Eric. He did a great job talking about this, but we've really made an effort to increase our collaboration over the past few years, and we want to continue doing more of that. As an active member of the WLGCC, Eric is a leader in the 38, 39 plus additional local governments are doing some really impactful stuff, and we're really happy to be a part of that and contribute to that coalition. As well as the City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equity. That might be our longest one, but is making great strides as well. And again, that's co-chaired by Ann O'Connor and Marina Dimitrievich. And That serves as a great opportunity for us to do a lot of what we're doing right here today, which is sharing our progress to community members and between the city and the county, and also let that be an opportunity for community input to actually guide that implementation as well and be really impactful. So we'll continue to do that moving forward. As well as working with other municipalities, right? Milwaukee County is a big space, and the work being done at the city is incredible, but there's a whole host of other municipalities within the county as well. And as we continue to hopefully walk alongside other municipalities, you know, another great win in the past couple of years is the city of Wauwatosa, who added a sustainability staff person, and it goes to show the amount of work that can be done by even just one person for your municipality is so impactful, and we're really happy to see that, and we really want to be an active advocate, supporter, and collaborator with more municipalities as we move forward. So I think that'll conclude what I have prepared, and we want to do a few questions. Okay.
Go ahead.
Explored a little bit. I will say it has not been implemented yet anywhere. But some of the feedback that we've gotten, not only from our transit system, but just our county fleet as well, is in some cases, in some use cases, electrification doesn't yet make sense. Technology isn't there for some of our larger vehicles. So they've urged us, and we're happy to comply with this, is to look into other alternatives as well. Compressed natural gas has been used for a while down at the airport in the shuttle buses, but renewable natural gas is certainly something that is on the table as a consideration.
Hi, great presentations. Thank you, both of you. Question is, are we reaching out to our architectural businesses that are in the city, like HCG? You know, are we working with them to do sustainable building ethics? And then are healthcare facilities held to these green development as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Are healthcare facilities being held to some of these standards? How are we utilizing this with you know, consultants, contractors that we partner with at the county? Yeah, absolutely. My intention with these sustainable design standards is to make it very apparent and known for any you know, solicitation that the county will put out moving forward. Say, hey, we're looking for an architect or an engineer to help develop this project that we're going to construct. We're going to put that in that request for proposal, and we're going to make that a requirement. We're going to make that one of the criteria of how we score who we plan to work with on their willingness to support and lead those efforts with our standards. As far as would like a healthcare facility be required, the answer to that would be no at this time. The sustainable design standards are an internal facing resource right now for only Milwaukee County owned and operated facilities. The one thing I will say to that, we developed this resource to be kind of either plug and play, or you can tailor it to what works to you. We've already begun handing out this resource to other communities, but also private businesses as well, and would be happy to allow others to try to use pieces of what we've developed here to make work for them. So in that case, healthcare facilities certainly could adopt their own version of this or utilize our resource to drive their own sustainable design construction as well. Yeah.
Good. So we have an
Take
event.
questions for both of them now.
Yeah. We have an event on December
Microphones,
13th at the.
Can you come up to the
Yeah,
microphone?
sorry.
Why don't you both stay up?
Yeah, to your point, we have an event coming up at the Milwaukee Sailing Club. I gotta confirm the date. I think it's the 13th, with architects and engineers to talk about sustainability, particularly with the Wisconsin Association of Energy Efficiency Engineers. So there is a good group, and to your point, LEED is a standard that can be adopted. I'm pretty sure the Fiserv Forum is LEED Silver, so it is out there. But I think we can do more, like I said, on the large development projects to really push sustainability in those.
First, say we are not a very. We've only been around since 2024, so we've come quite a ways in this short period of time. But Louise Petering has been working on this issue for a very long time, and from the beginning of the 3-year work on the county climate equity plan. Louise has been there following it, having us ready to testify and everything, and that was before we even had climate groups. So I just want to thank Louise for all the work that she has done for such a long time, well, you've heard mention of Ann O'Connor here. I will say Ann is also a member of our league, but I asked Ann to come up and talk as a county supervisor about the role of the political people, but what is your role as it relates to advocacy with our elected officials, and how important is that or not? So Ann O'Connor, she is a county supervisor. She has the North Shore area. She has been a relentless champion within the county and in the city on climate.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Louise, for inviting me here today. I see lots of familiar faces, and yes, I am a league member as well. So I'm Ann O'Connor. I represent District 1 on the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, and that is, I have an entirely suburban district. So I represent Shorewood, Whitefish Bay, Fox Point, Bayside, River Hills, and 75% of Glendale. So, not anymore. Brown Deer was redistricted, so that is now Supervisor Johnson Jr. But I would like to just say that, as Director Schomburger mentioned, we have to keep talking about this. So I really feel like one of the things I try to do in my role is to make sure that this stays on agendas and is acknowledging the work of the subject matter experts like Director Helly and Director Schomburger. So when they are preparing things like the Sustainable Design Standards and the Climate Action Plan, that we are moving that forward as elected officials, making sure those things get approved, and if approval is not needed, that we're at least just uplifting it in the conversation, which gives an opportunity. Anytime something's on an agenda, that means it is open for public comment. So that gives everyone in this room an opportunity to show up at that committee meeting and let your elected officials know how you feel about it, or write to them if you're not able to attend in person. There's always a way for public comment to be delivered, and you don't have to have all the answers. And a little bit here, we've been talking about transit. And to be honest, the future of Milwaukee County Transit is a big question mark right now. So that was probably the thing we heard about the most at our county budget listening session. One of the amendments that our Board of Supervisors brought forward was for Milwaukee County Transit to come back in this December meeting cycle with a more comprehensive plan about the future of Milwaukee County Transit. Because right now, lots of specific lines are on the chopping block. So there is right sizing of the transit system, but we can feather in that sustainability dialogue. So sometimes these agenda items are not going to be necessarily screaming that they're climate related, but one of the biggest things we'll be seeing in the Milwaukee County budget in the years ahead, as Director Harley mentioned, is the Investing in Justice Courthouse Complex project, which is I've seen 500 million, 600 million in the range. It is going to be the biggest project Milwaukee County takes on to date. So we have to use our voices to make sure that the blue-green jobs component is at the forefront, that we are implementing those sustainable design standards. And then we also have to make sure in each budget cycle and each project that our sustainability leaders are properly staffed and that they have the budgets they need to operate. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We were talking a little bit about the data centers, and Senator Jody Habersinikin does have something that will be discussed at the state about more transparency around data centers, because there's so many unknowns. How much water are they using? How much might this be a rate increase? What is the environmental impact? We don't even know. So her proposal is for more transparency around that. At Milwaukee County, I am the vice chair of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. So we do have an intergovernmental relations person on staff for both the board and out of the county executive's office. And it's their job to be the liaison to the state. And that's where they express our priorities. So I took a look at what Senator Jody Haber-Sinekin has coming forward, and I am uplifting that in a county board resolution. This is literally breaking news. You're the first people to hear about it because it got uploaded into the county legislative calendar yesterday. It is still not visible because it has to be referred to committee, and then it will be visible to all of you to see the exact language, but I can share a little bit about what it says. So it is encouraging that transparency around data centers. It will be County Board Resolution 25-781 for you all to look for when it does become available. I should know by next week where it's going in committee. My guess is it will be referred to Intergovernmental Relations, and they meet on December. So here's one chance in the very near future for you to use your voice if you are able and a Milwaukee County resident. December 1st at 9 a.m. is the Intergovernmental Relations Committee meeting. My guess is that this will be referred there. I'm happy to report that already 10 of my 18 colleagues, I guess that's 17 colleagues including myself, have already signed on as a co-sponsor to this resolution. So that's super positive. And that means it would come in front of our entire board later in December. So I would just say stay engaged, develop a relationship if you can with your elected officials. When we get emails and phone calls or requests for coffee, and that's how I've gotten to know a lot of folks in the room here, then it's that much easier to pick up the phone, ask a question when something specific is coming in front of us. And I equally rely on your expertise, opinions, and lived experience when I want feedback, as well as our subject matter experts. So specifically around this data center resolution, Director Helly, I hope it's okay if I share some of the concerns, but if Milwaukee County is classified in the state legislation as one of the large user categories, that could really negatively impact our bottom line, because we also could get charged more. So that is something that I intend to ask of the state and Senator Haber-Sinekin if government can be possibly an exception. And as I was speaking with Molly from American Lung Association, you know, what do we want to raise as concerns? Because on the surfaces, it looks great. And I did also run it by conservation voters. So, you know, I utilize all of you to like, well, how, on the surface, this seems good. What are we not thinking about? You know, where are some of the unforeseen consequences? So it really needs to be a dialogue, and that's a chance to be engaged. So it's so positive that this room is full today of people who obviously care. So just take that concern, care, and passion, and engage as frequently as you can. Thanks so much.
Data centers. So I'm not going to, it is interesting, I don't know, what, June we did a program on data centers here. An excellent program. We had Professor Petering, who gave a brilliant overview of it, and we had somebody from the Citizen Utility Board, and we didn't have that many people here. And I just said we are ahead of our time here, because you know, you cannot open the paper without hearing a discussion of data centers now. And as Eric said, you know, when they put these plans together, it was just not on the radar screen. So there are some legislative, there's another bill, we understand, that's also coming in with a little different language. And As a league, we can't take a position on this yet because it has to be in bill form and it has to go to our legislative committee. But you as individuals, as you see information that comes out about having a bill that does, there is no regulation now. So a bill that at least gets out there and starts talking about regulation, talking about transparency. Who are these people who show up and put in a data center? It took a long time to know who was actually behind some of the data centers. And you know, it's interesting about the small data center that you mentioned in a closet. I mean, you've heard, others probably know this, something like 47 data centers are actually out there, and some of them, like Port Washington, will have as much energy as well, Dave will correct me when I'm wrong on this, but will have as much energy as virtually all the households in the state that data center will need that much. So this is an issue that we as a league will be working on, and we are in a number of coalitions that are working on this also. One is the Clean Economy Coalition, and has a data group that Louise and I are on. So there's a lot of places in the league that we are connecting on these issues. Paula, did you have a question you wanted to raise?
Yeah, it may be more of a statement. So I'm Paula Kintyre from Racine.
Paula, do you want to? Nobody will be able to. Oh, she's turned the little camera there, but I don't know if she has a mic on it.
So thank you for the time. So I was part of the core group that was able to push back on Microsoft in our Caledonia data center proposal. And so I just reiterate being involved in your local government, because I was not until this came about, and you find out a lot of maybe not so appropriate workings at your local level. So I really urge you to get engaged and have a voice. We have put our local government on notice that our group that was formed is not going away, and it will be evident in the next election. So we have active participants going on there. But I have already submitted a letter to Jody Habish-Sinekin on that proposal, because it is welcomed as a starting point, but we need to have that bar set very, very high for these data centers, because currently they will be able to meet those recommendations that are put in there, and that doesn't prevent them from continuing to do bad behaviors. And also, what I brought forward, there's nothing that addresses the healthcare implications of these data centers. And so that, I think, is something that's very significant. I've reached out to Virginia's State Health Department to find out what they are doing for surveillance and protecting their citizens, and unfortunately, I have not received a reply. I have reached out to our state health department and kind of got a company line, so I will be continuing to push and pursue that conversation. But it's a ripple effect. There are so many things involved with these data centers that we don't know. And they come in with their marketing plan, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of taking over here, but it's just a very passionate thing. They come in with their marketing plan, and our local government did not have the wherewithal to ask the appropriate questions. And I also wrote a letter to Governor Evers. Unfortunately, it was the end of the week before he put out his news release that he was all on board with supporting data centers in our state. But these local governments don't have the capacity to deal with these big entities that have rings of lawyers and attorneys. And I think, were really lucky, because we focused our conversation on our comprehensive plan, how it was going to impact. They didn't care about the health effects, they didn't care about the environment. We had to go back to our community comprehensive plan and really hold them to that. And I think that's why we were successful. But have gotten engaged in our core group. Our kind of de facto leader is working with the Port Washington and the Beaver Dam. And so there are a lot of actions that still have to be happening. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Paula. We have a number of partners here that I want to lift up, because they partner with us all the time on these issues. we are at their events, they are at our events, they are co-sponsoring here. And so I think it's important for you to know, who is out there that works on these issues of climate together. So first I want to talk to Amanda. Do you want to, and I'm going to have you just come up and tell them what you do and what you're working on. And she was a speaker at our data workshop that we did.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Amanda. I'm with Healthy Climate Wisconsin. We are a coalition and network. Paula spoke at our conference last week and it was fantastic. We are a coalition of healthcare professionals, whether that's public health like me or nurses, doctors, physicians, PAs, occupational therapists, all types, who come together to recognize the emergency of the climate crisis in our community. And so we are working to elevate the health impacts of climate change and put our health voices in the conversation. And so we work on a number of issues: food, water, and lands. Liz and I are on the Forward We Energies team working on energy issues. We're working on data centers, and we'd love to have you join us if you are a health professional or know any health professionals.
Thanks, Amanda. And I, as a retired nurse, I was very fortunate to get involved with this group because they are amazing people. And so the next group we work with a lot, all the time, and has been mentioned a few times here, is Citizen Action of Wisconsin. And Kat Claus is the climate lead in that organization, and she has an issue she wants to bring up to you as part of our advocacy here. Kat, you want to come up?
Thank you. I am the Climate Action Policy Coordinator at Citizen Action Wisconsin. We're a statewide group, but we have a lot of organizing we do with Milwaukee County, the city, and everywhere. We have a petition to demand We Energies release data. We Energies is our corporate-owned monopoly utility provider, and they've been doing a lot of things recently, like raising our rates. I paid my electric bill today, and it was $20 more than it was last year, and they're going to increase our rates again next year. And on top of that, they're building tons of new gas plants, and they're not really showing why they need them. We all know now why they need them is these new data centers that they're trying to slap us with the bill with. So they're hurting our wallets, they're hurting our communities, they're hurting our health, they're hurting our planet. And so this basically says they need to give us, the ratepayers, the people who fund them, information about what they're doing and why they're doing it. I think it was Eric was talking about how they used to have plans that they would share publicly about how much more power do we need? Where is that coming from? How are we going to do all that? And they're not doing that anymore. And they're not going to do it until we make them. So I have a petition related to that, and we're creating a campaign with a number of lovely partners. I also want to mention we have a bill called a rate cap bill that we just introduced 2 weeks ago. It's a 2% rate cap. So that would mean families would not pay more than 2% of their household income to heat or cool their home. So it's an economic justice issue because every year almost 100,000 Wisconsinites get their power shut off. So it would stop that from happening by making energy affordable, but also it's a climate issue because when they can't slap us with dirty gas plants that are more expensive than renewables, they're going to go renewable. Right now, they're building these gas plants because they can just charge us with the bill. They can't charge us with these big bills anymore. They're going to be more environmentally and fiscally responsible. And last thing that I want to mention is we talked about grants for the Inflation Reduction Act. Citizen Action is doing lots of outreach in communities. So if you want to talk to me after, I'd love to come to your church, your community group, your knitting group, to your house to talk to all of your friends. There are grants of thousands of dollars to help weatherize your home. Most folks get around $10,000 completely for free. It helps lower their bills and it helps our planet. So I will hang around after. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. So one of the things that our Climate Action Group does, puts on programs like this, and we did one on data centers, and we did one on these grants, these renewable grants, with Kevin Kane was here, along with Kat, and they did a whole presentation on that, and I know some, again, maybe we're just too early with what we're doing here in the league, because really we should have filled the room and done it many times over. I just personally had my basement insulated, which I didn't even know was a thing, that you can insulate your basement with Kevin's people. It's a union. They use all union workers, and they work throughout the city. And so if you want any information about that, we'll make sure we have things on our web. I should say, I see people taking notes, taking pictures. we have a fantastic member of ours that is recording all this. It will be on our website, and all the slides, I assume, will be given to us. So if anybody wants, to download the actual slides and look at them, that is possible also. The Climate Action Group at the League I do want one more partner that we have, and that's Jennifer Evans, and she is the president of Our Future Milwaukee, which is an organization of a number of, do you want to come up and just say who we are? We are collective. All of this work, to do this work on climate requires all of us. It requires all of us to be engaged. And we also organizationally partner up with other groups so that we can lift up our voice even stronger on behalf of the community.
Thanks, Candace. So I'm Jennifer Evans. I'm president of Our Future Milwaukee Coalition. We're a coalition of more than 20 organizations working together to ensure that Milwaukee's climate and equity plan is fully implemented. Also, we're supporting the county's efforts to implement their plan and develop a community-wide plan, hopefully. So, two things I want to point out is we promote a lot of through our network, we promote a lot of the activities that our partners are doing. We also have a newsletter with more than 800 folks who are subscribed to our newsletter, and I would encourage you to join that. We promote a lot of events. The work that Grant and Eric are doing is so important, but they can't always depend on this political support that they need to get the money they need, the resources they need to do their work. And so we really are here to nudge politicians, the community, help the community, and keep the community informed about what's happening. We're acting as kind of not exactly a watchdog, but yeah, we are monitoring. We're messaging to the public about what's happening, and then when we need to, we help get people to turn out for events like this, or also to show up for the budget hearings to really push for more funding for transit, to make sure that the Office of not equity inclusion, but that's a good one too, but also Eric's office and Grant, that they get the funding they need to staff their offices, because the work they're doing is so important. So we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter and talk to me. I'd be glad to give you more information. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And one final partner, but we work with many partners, but key partners that we work with. Molly, why don't you come up for a second? She's on our steering committee, she's a member, but she's so much more than that.
I'm also the advocacy director for Wisconsin with the American Lung Association, so we work on a lot of issues, but climate and air quality is one of them, and so I love the opportunity to work with the League. You all are my favorite people. That's why I joined the governance committee. I knew Lorna would be excited about that. So yeah, it's always a great opportunity, and we work at the state level on a lot of these things, pushing for the integrated resource planning bill that was introduced along with some of these data center monitoring bills. We just need to lift up all of our voices and really engage on these issues at every level of government so that they're hearing that climate needs to be a priority. Obviously, all the rest of the world is on fire, but climate needs to stay on their radar too. So we'll all keep working on that together.
Thanks, Molly. There is an issue, an advocacy issue that you guys didn't mention, but I don't know if Ann wants to bring it up. Anyways, there is probably some advocacy that needs to be done about EV chargers at the county. Is that something you want to? Yeah.
There's 13 sites, so there's 7 libraries and 6 county parks. Again, our plan is to get the funding approved, at which point, so the cities have formally approved it, but the county has not. We've given communication files, and the plan was that we wouldn't get approval until we actually had the vendor picked and the construction and all of this stuff is ready to go. We did hear a lot of concerns from one particular supervisor. Sheldon Wasserman was pretty opposed, I think it's fair to say, to the project at Veterans Park. So there is a parking lot by the kite shop that is near the sailing center. Sailing center supportive, but it's between the kite shop and a rest stop, or like a bathroom, and so he was, I don't know why I honestly don't get it, why he's concerned, but he is. He then said we should go to the Lakefront Development Advisory Commission to get their approval, which they have provided, so they have approved it. But I imagine we still might have a little sand in the gears when we get to the board, and so anyway, I think it's a great project. I think the dispute is like, are we trying to commercialize the parks? And the way I look at EV charging is not about commercialization, it is about an amenity so that you can use the park and charge while you're enjoying all the stuff at the park. That's my view, and I hope we can get it done.
So, a couple of things on this. If you live in the county and you have a county supervisor, you should contact them and say you really support having the county have these chargers in place. To give you an example of how we work together, Kat and I met with Supervisor Wasserman, and he is supporting of moving it to the marina area, and he said he's working on that, he tells us, and that he will work with us on moving the EV charger situation along. But it would be really helpful for those of you in the county to be able to contact your supervisor. And so this is, my final kind of comments are that part of what we do is educate in the league, which is, a program like this, but the other half of what we do is really advocacy. And so in that advocacy, we are setting up what we call climate champions, and we will be identifying people within various supervisory districts right now, because there's an issue of supervisory. We have so many members in Ann's district, who doesn't need to be called, but we have a lot of members in Sheldon Wasserman's district also. Anyways, if you're interested in being a climate champion, just let us know. We have quite a few people. What would you say we had?
We have about 11 right now.
We have 11 supervisors.
No.
We have 11 people.
Individuals who are willing to call.
Okay, so, and then the other thing is, if you want to be on our, once a month, our steering committee meets, and you saw some of them, there's about 16, and at least 13 or more are here today. We meet once a month to make plans about what we should bring up next for the next program or next activity. But we also are putting out action alerts about, like, it'll be a little short to get something out about this bill on Monday after Thanksgiving. That's a little short. But, when the issue of the EV chargers, for example, comes back to the county board, we will want to have people make calls to their county supervisor. And you heard, we engaged around the budget, we've already put in a letter about the EV chargers, but that's generic to everybody. So if you are interested in getting our action alerts, then also please let us know, or mark that down when you leave, so you can see who these people are that have been working on these things. Okay, great, thank you so much. I'd also like to make sure she's still there, acknowledge the president of the league, Peg Schrader, is here, and thank you for joining us today and supporting our efforts. Are there any final comments or any final questions? Anything? I'm like, it's 5 to 12. I love this.
There are a whole host of members who have helped put this program together. Let me see if I can advance it quickly, because I like to acknowledge all of the people who do a lot of work. And Mary Volker, I apologize to you for not having your name in here. So. It takes teamwork to do these things. And as the person who does the update, the weekly update for the Milwaukee County League, and coordinates with Candace with the county climate champions, we aim to move forward on this and to expand our efforts. So thank you very much again to Eric Schombarger and Grant Helly for coming, and for Ann O'Connor for her voice on the county board and speaking to us today. Thank you very much for coming.